In Flutter, everything is a widget, and there are many widgets out there. It feels like there's a million widgets and every day 1,000 new widgets are being added. Reality is, not all of them are good. Many of them don't even work properly. The good news is, you don't need most of them. Actually, you just need a very small subset of these widgets to get started with Flutter. In this video, I will give you an introduction on the basic widgets that you need to master in order to get going with Flutter. Let's jump right into it and get started. It all starts with a MaterialApp. And the good news is you might get away with not configuring anything on it. It might just be that you add your screen, your scaffold, and that's it. You might also want to add a couple routes, so that is for navigation from one page to another within your application. You can also add a couple more things here that are valid for the entire application. One very important attribute is theme, where you can configure the ThemeData, which is design configuration that is to be applied across the entire application. So that way you can set, for example, a color scheme or what kind of fonts you want to use, and it's in one place configured, applied to the entire application. You can deviate in individual widgets, but you don't have to specify it on each widget itself. The next very important widget is already here seen under Home, the Scaffold. The Scaffold class gives the structure of your page. So it has three main components. One is the navigation bar on the top of your application screen. So that can be the title, the name of your application, the body, and a bottom navigation bar. Let's have a quick look at the bottom navigation bar before we jump into the body. In the bottom navigation bar property, you specify a class of the type bottom navigation bar, and that gives you a navigation bar like you see here with three icons at the bottom, and you can switch between different screens defined by routes, for example, or provide any other functionality behind these buttons. And the most important area of your scaffold, your home screen, is under the body attribute, which is the main area of your screen where you can configure anything you want. Now, talking about the body of your screen, how do you draw your content onto that screen? A couple of very important classes here are column and row. Let's have a look at these. A column draws a vertical array of widgets on your screen. So in this example, you start out with some text and then an icon. But basically, every time you have multiple widgets that you want to stack on top of each other from top to bottom, you can use column. The same is for the class row, which is the same in a horizontal way, from left to right by default. Column as well as row have a main axis and a cross axis. So for the row, the main axis is from left to right, and for the column, it's from top to bottom. You can specify the alignment of the widgets along the main axis. They can be spaced out, they can be as short as possible in the beginning and the end, and you can also specify an alignment along the cross axis. So for example, in a row from left to right, do you want your objects to be drawn at the top, in the center, or at the bottom? Column and row are the most important classes to combine multiple widgets on screen. Now let's have a look at classes that help to configure an individual widget. So while row and column have an array of children, other classes have only a single child. A very important of these classes is container. You can wrap any widget into a container and give some additional parameters on how to position it on screen. For example, you can add some margin or padding around it. You can set sizing constraints, and you can place that container in other widgets. In terms of positioning widgets on screen, align is very important as well. So it helps you to use the available space and place your widgets to the left, to the top, wherever you want them to be. Let's have a look at the widgets that help you to add the actual content of your application to the screen. Text is a very simple but extremely important class to just add a label on your screen or anything that relates to text. And better than text is an icon. So with the icon class, you can add an icon onto your screen. Of course, you can place it like any other widget as well. And you can use material icons or any other icons that you want. To add some interactivity to your application, you will need some kind of buttons. So here I would list two types of buttons. As you see, the icon button has two main attributes: the icon, where you specify the icon to be shown, and an onPressed function, where you can specify the behavior that is to be triggered when the icon is pressed. If you can't find an icon that makes it very clear to the user what functionality is behind a button, you can also use a text button class. So that's basically the same, but instead of an icon, you have a text child. So here we have the text button, onPressed function, and a text as a child. With these 12 widgets, you can already start and build a basic app in Flutter for your phone. Another class I would like to mention here is Provider. It's technically not part of the core Flutter application, but it's an additional package. You will need it in order to share state across all the widgets in your application. I suggest to build a basic demo application using these classes, and that will get you ready to build more sophisticated applications with Flutter. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel to see more tutorials on how to build mobile applications.